Hello there, everybody. My name is Addison, or the Kinformant. I know it's been a while. It's been about 2 weeks, but as you can tell by the change in background, I started at college, which turns out is a lot of work and can be pretty stressful. Hence why I'm wearing a hoodie in 90-degree weather. I'm ill, but yeah. So my apologies for not really being up to date on tons of videos. There's kind of been a lull in news. But I hope to be back up to making at least one a week going forward. But so for today, what I want to talk about is to kind of summarize an article by the lovely Adam Cochran on NuFi, which if you have not heard of NuFi or haven't visited it, it's a great website, lots of information about crypto and kin specifically. That's why I go there. But yeah, so this is an article by Adam on NuFi called 5 Problems Kin Needs to Solve to Become the Most Used Cryptocurrency by the End of the Year. Now, we all know that Kin's goal is to be the most used cryptocurrency by the end of 2018, which is about 4 months away at this point. But there are a few key things that kind of stand in the way of that right now. So we'll start by looking at what it means to be the most used cryptocurrency by the end of the year, or in general. So when it comes to transactions per day, blockchain transactions per day, there's a couple groups ahead of us right now. Those being EOS, BTS, Steem, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. EOS has about 4 million transactions a day. Bitcoin has 230,000. Kin has 20,000 transactions a day right now. Surely nothing to scoff at. You know, Kin is definitely in its infant stages, but as the goal being that we want to be the most used by the end of the year, you know, gaining essentially 4 million users per day, 4 million users that transact per day, it's going to be a little bit tough. Now, some of these numbers are fuzzy, like EOS, BTS, and Steem. The way that you count transactions is odd, and a lot of these networks have bots that do transactions and whatnot, but we're just going to say that that's what we're going off of right now, because it's easier. So yes, Kin needs about 4 million more transactions per day to be the most used cryptocurrency by the end of the year. Well, what are some things standing in the way of us getting there? Well, number one would be restricted integration. So right now, the whole thing is that Kin Foundation wants to build, open, fair ecosystem, and they launched their developer program where they took on 40 apps, but the SDK is not publicly available right now. Anyone looking to make applications that utilize Kin 2, the stellar version of the token, as opposed to the ERC20 token, would have to be within that developer program. So right now, the only people who can really build new apps and new products for Kin are the people within the developer program. Now, of course, you could build for the ERC20 token, using all the frameworks on Ethereum network and whatnot, but we're not certain if those will count towards the Kin Rewards engine, and therefore, the Kin Rewards engine is a huge feature and fact of why you'd be involved in this ecosystem, so not having that would be kind of a bummer. But the big thing being that if Kin wants to become the most used cryptocurrency by the end of the year, I'm going to say that a lot in this video, they definitely need to bring on a lot more developers with a lot more users. Now, the developer program is still kind of in its early stages. We'll see what's happening with that in October when everything kind of comes out about it, but for right now, we don't know how many transactions these new or old projects that are now integrating Kin are going to bring on board. So we kind of have to hope that, it'll really boost the numbers up. I'm sure it will, because some of these apps have huge user bases, but with such limitations for people outside of those 40 developers basically being limited to not really build on the platform, it's definitely a hindrance, especially one when it comes to the possibility of future growth. Not a huge problem, but the idea of having the most transactions by the end of the year, you want as many kind of developers and projects in there as possible. Number 2 is Kin's isolated ecosystem. So the thing is, right now, we only have 1 or 2 apps that utilize Kin, depending on if you count Kick or not, which you should, but I haven't been allowed in the beta yet, so I'm not going to count it. That's not true. But right now, you have a Kin wallet per app. So let's say I know one of the apps joining the ecosystem is called Nearby. One of them is called, I think, Vent. So let's say I have an account on Vent, an account on Nearby, where I have Kin in them. It's not these two programs pulling from one account. Each one has their own account, which is kind of a big problem. It's a hindrance to have 1,000 kin on Kinit and a couple hundred in Vent and a couple hundred in Nearby, when I could accumulate all of them into one place and spend it towards an earn or spend opportunity within just one app that may cost more. So the idea of having a login with kin button, as we see with I think it's called Authenticator authentication with login with Google, login with Facebook. Seeing something like that within these kin apps is going to be very important, because we don't want to have kin spread out across 40 different apps. The average user would like to just kind of have it all in one place that they can move around. Problem number 3, kin is a centralized blockchain. It is a private, single product focused blockchain. Blah. And that's not really what cryptocurrency is about. All of the nodes right now are run by kin, and a normal user could not host one, both because the GitHub code is out of date and because they don't have the passphrases. Crypto is all about being decentralized, generally speaking, while this isn't totally essential for kin, because we're going to kind of have, it's just not necessarily needed, as opposed to something like Monero, where it's all about being anonymous and decentralized and people being allowed to kind of control aspects of it. So it's not the end of the world, but that's what a lot of current crypto investors like to see. To the average user, it probably won't matter, but to a lot of people who want to get in right now, they could see this centralized blockchain as a deterrent, because it limits the opportunities. Kin could reject a transaction anytime they want. They could refund something. They have complete control over the ecosystem and over the transactions that take place within it, which, like I said, is not necessarily what people think of when they think of crypto. Problem number 4 is the atomic swap. So right now, almost all of kin, most kin that people own right now is on the Ethereum blockchain. If an investor has 1 million kin, they've either been doing an incredible amount of surveys, or they have it on the Ethereum token side, on an exchange or on a ledger, whatever, wherever you want to store it. So the big issue being that without an atomic swap, kin 1 doesn't really have a purpose. Now, once these two can transact evenly, once I can take my kin, move it into Kinit, and take advantage of those spend opportunities, that'll be great. That'll be a huge step forward. But right now, my kin 1 cannot be put towards any of these spend opportunities, cannot be used in the ecosystem. Now, the atomic swap was supposed to go live in Q3, which just ended, and they pushed it back to at least late Q4. Now, it's not a big deal. Kin has pushed things back before, and they've always come to deliver on them in one way or another. But when it comes to this whole idea of within these next 4 months reaching a very large number of users and transactions daily, it's going to be hard to do without the atomic swap, because that's what a lot of people are looking at. Even if it's moved where the Kinit market value is worth right now, kin 2 token is worth 1 cent. Let's say they go back down to market value, which I think is 0.0007 or whatever. Even just being able to use the kin that I already have at market value for these earn and spend opportunities would be a big step forward. So that's definitely something, I keep touching my nose, that's definitely something that would help kin kind of move along and move forward with gaining more users. Now lastly, there's Kik Incorporation. As we know, kin is created by Ted Livingston, who made Kik, when a lot of people call it a Kik token, which it is so not. But the big kind of first partner that we are looking at is Kik itself. The Kik team hasn't said a lot about integrating kin into Kik. The Kin Foundation as a whole has been generally more quiet lately, but there's no real notice of progress being made. They did release an article a couple days ago about how they think they're going to do it, but there's still not a lot within the Kik app right now. I'm told you can do quizzes, you can buy chat themes, you can get some stickers, but besides that, there's no real use, and that's even limited to people who have been accepted into their beta program. So Kik, the app with 15 million active users, I mean, just adding it in, let's say 1 in 10 people decide to use it on a regular basis, well, there we go. That's 1.5 million users right there. But until we see some more integration into Kik, more opportunities for people to earn and spend Kin outside of the Kinit app, it doesn't necessarily seem likely that Kin will become the most used cryptocurrency by the end of the year. Now, don't get me wrong, I am still incredibly supportive of Kin and what they're doing. Everything they're doing is incredible, and I truly believe in this kind of new type of digital economy. But the fact is that this goal that they've set for themselves, they're not going to be able to achieve unless they make some adjustments. And you know what? They very well may. It's highly possible that they are working on all those things right now, and we just don't know about it. But until we see those things implemented, it's unlikely that Kin will become the most used cryptocurrency by the end of the year. Of course, I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. So we'll just see what happens. Normally I cut the video there, but I don't have Sony Vegas, so thank you all for watching very much. If you want to find me on Twitter or Reddit, I am the Kinformant, like in my username for YouTube. I haven't been super duper active on those just because, like I said, college, I'm doing a lot of work and papers and whatnot, but I'm hoping to kind of jump back on that bandwagon as the dust kind of settles from getting here and getting started. So thank you all for watching very much, and that's all from me.